Hello, you're listening to the Mindset of Podcasting. In this podcast, we talk about all things podcasting, from setting it up, getting over those fears, and growing your podcast. I'm your host, Jillian, CEO of Jillian Grover Podcast Solutions. I've been helping women entrepreneurs start, manage, and grow their podcasts since 2020. Listen in as I give you all the tips and tricks I know about successfully launching and managing your podcasts. Let's go chat. Hi, Cindy. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I'm excited to chat. So Cindy and I met through Hillary Krieger's Marketing Magic. Is that what it's called?
Marketing messaging magic.
Yes, messaging. I forgot the messaging part. Yes.
M cubed.
Yes. And we had to do a TikTok challenge of 5 videos a day, which was a lot. But I loved it because I got to learn so much about Cindy and her amazing bucket system that she has. So we're going to talk about that today. But first, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about you and your business?
Yes. Hello, everybody. Coming to you live from a hot New Orleans summer day. The heat index today, it's not so bad. The heat index has been anywhere between 105 and 115. Yes, that's like the feels like temperature. But yes, we are making it through. We've got big fans, lots of AC cranking, and just, sweating a lot and taking multiple showers. But yeah, so my name is Cindy Beerworth. I am a mom of 2. I have 2 kids that are under the age of 3. My little guy is about to turn 15 months actually next week. So I'm super excited about that. I've got 2 dogs. Like I said, you might see them because I know this is being recorded. So the white one is Jade and the like grayish lavender color is Peaches. So in case you see them in the background. And yeah, I am a mindset and productivity coach for mom business owners who are looking to be present in their lives and productive in their business. And so a lot of that teeters in what I like to call blending it all. And so that's motherhood, the season of motherhood, your business, and then basically being the coordinator of your life. Because if you're a mom listening to this, you know that you pretty much are the coordinator. You hold all of the things in your brain. And so I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit. But yes, so I serve mom business owners who also just want realistic productivity as well, because knowing that being a mom, our schedules can be very inconsistent. And so I love to make consistent-ish schedules. And like you mentioned, the bucket system, which really allows for flow and for ease and for you to really lean into your energy, your focus, and the time that you really do have available when that time arrives.
Oh, I could have used you when my kids were little. They're a little older now, so I'm in a different phase of life than you. So
Yeah.
But, oh my gosh, I couldn't even imagine trying to run a business while they were toddlers. Like I was still in corporate back then because I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah. And most of the things that you'll hear today too are definitely applicable to you as a business owner and entrepreneur. Just again, looking at just seasons of life in general. I'm obviously in a season of full-time motherhood. One, thankfully, I love her so much, but she goes to camp in the summer. And then the other one is home with me. And then they'll both start school in August. And so it'll be very interesting to see what the time availability opens up. But something that I've just recognized, especially just during COVID, was the idea of just like not wanting to do it all and really needing to really take care of myself. And thinking about too, like my life was so busy that all of a sudden, like there wasn't anything to like really do other than like I took walks all the time, worked out all the time, kind of just hung out. But it really coming out of it, and it's something I still revisit now, is just like really where do I want my energy to go? Because my energy as a mom of 1 has shifted so much more as a mom of 2 that I know that it's really important for me to take care of myself and to really hold on to my energy so that I can pour into my family and the other relationships and the other things that are happening in my real life.
Yes, because we are so much more than just moms. No.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes. And I think COVID, like you said, was, if we try to look at the positive that came out of it, it was that, oh my gosh, we don't have to be go, go, go all the time. We can rest.
Yes.
We can slow down a little.
Yes. And that's definitely something I like to hone in on too, is just like productivity, I believe, has a little bit of a bad rap because it's got product in it. So, there's that idea, society's idea of that there always needs to be an end product at the end. And a lot of times especially as moms, if we're filling up our schedules and we're filling and pouring into everybody else, and all of a sudden we get down, we put our heads in at the end of the night, and like there's just hasn't been that opportunity for you to pour into yourself. So I really also really love for my clients to find white space or find a space where you can rest. And it's not like this really big time. Like I'm not going to get an hour chunk in most of my days to go to the spa in the middle of the day. I mean, that would be great. However, like how can I really just make sure that I'm honoring the duality of being both a mom and a business owner and making sure that I'm taking that rest. And so that's definitely something I make sure about to really like bring home, and less is more. Having a full plate doesn't make you more productive than the other, doesn't make you more like, get that gold star at the end of the day, like, I mean, it's great. But at the same time, there's that opportunity of really just like putting one thing on your to-do list for the day and like feeling like that satisfaction and that peace versus just like approaching your day every single day with this mile long to-do list that you feel like you're never getting to the top.
Yes, which causes stress, which stress is not good for us at all.
Exactly. We already have enough, as moms. I mean, I could totally nerd out on the brain a little bit, but our lids are flipped, if you will. That's what I think David Siegel calls it, the whole brain child and brainstorm. I'm a former teacher, so like love this kind of stuff, but our lid is flipped. Our nervous system is dysregulated a lot of the time because we are seeing, hearing, and like reacting, to it. And, like putting out fires or seeing the toilet papers out. So knowing I need to go on to Amazon and get my, so we're just always on.
Yes.
And so giving ourselves, like I said, like some white space and some rest to really just be is just as productive as doing 50 things on a to-do list.
Yeah. And I feel like we're starting to see that shift a little bit in society, or maybe it's just because I only follow now people who start like promoting some rest, but like not the always have to do being productive. Cause, I can remember a time where I say, oh, I did nothing last night. And people would be like, you did nothing. And they kind of view you as lazy and like, but now it's like, oh, you did nothing. Like that's even harder than actually being busy because people are going to look at you like you're lazy and
Right. And, so much of what, I mean, even me, and what I've learned is that it's a lot of people's opinions being projected onto you. And so me just recognizing like that's not, because I have a tendency to take on people's energies as well. Being a former teacher is like, you're figuring out 30 kindergartners like energy in one room, at any given moment. Yeah. And so just recognizing that it's not about you, it's really like their perception. And I think that's like you said, a deconditioning and unlearning as a society that's slowly unraveling that doing less is actually more. And productivity doesn't always mean that you need to have something done at the end. Because if you took time, 10 minutes for yourself, a minute for yourself, in the end, like you're being productive and you're giving back to yourself, right? So
exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Well, let's get into I geek out over productivity too. So can you tell us a little more about your bucket system? I absolutely love it. I know you have tons of videos on TikTok. Go check her out on TikTok because that's where I just fell in love with this system. So
yes, I was actually just thinking the other day, I'm like, I need to go back and revisit some and like do some like whiteboard ones, but I'm like, I need a whiteboard. I'm like, because I feel like I'm also a very, again, being a former teacher, like it's kinesthetic, right? So like you can say it so much, but like seeing it and like going through it type of thing. Yes, but yes, I call it my anchor bucket. And so what I love to think about it is these are the hats that you're wearing currently. And so if you're like, what are you talking about, Cindy? So when I think about hats, like literally write down every single thing that you do. And it could be in a day, right? Or in a week or, whatever, again, coming back to the season of life. And then start to kind of look for those common themes and seeing like, okay, it looks like I've got a lot in I've got a business bucket. So for me, a lot of times it's my business bucket. I've got holidays and I'm planning travel. It could be the smallest things. And that would be my family bucket. So a lot of things kind of go into like that bucket. And then for me right now, currently I have a personal. So like my mom, my me bucket. So those are things of like where, I work out every week, I meditate, I journal, I want to read, I want to catch up on replays of whatever, some new thing that I, am into or whatever. And sometimes, like I said, just like obviously like having that rest time. So I've got my me bucket, and then I have in my like real life by day, I have my fitness bucket. So I need to like plan my classes and plan my playlists and all of that. So these are basically the hats that I am wearing every single day. And so I do have that ever long like to-do list, because I just like have a catch-all. But then what I love to do is then to split it into these anchor buckets. And so think of it as like you're pouring into this bucket, but the first bucket that needs to happen is your personal bucket, right? So that's definitely the first one that always needs to come. So as you're pouring into yourself, so whatever it is, if it's going for a walk, if it's listening to a podcast, if it's doing your makeup every single day, like doing your face, for me, a lot of times it's like getting my full like face routine at the end of the day, like just kind of wiping everything off and like coming down, knowing that it's time to like chill out. Like that feels so good. So like whatever that is, you put those to-dos under that bucket, and then that bucket then pours into the next bucket. So for me, a lot of times that's my family bucket. So then that would be those to-dos, like appointments that need to be made.
Never ending
those, like,
appointments for kids.
exactly, but like those little tiny things that can pop in that can just be really a little bit frustrating when you're like, I just have my normal day. I'm going about my business. Oh, all of a sudden, like my kid's sick. Okay, I need to insert that in, right? So, but it's a catch-all, right? So appointments that are coming up, holidays that you need to like schedule. It could be getting groceries at the end of the week, meal prepping, whatever that looks like for you and your family. So then from there, like it's pouring into the next bucket. So that would be my business bucket. And so that would be anything that I have coming up. So you could do this daily. You could do this. I like to do it by week. A lot of times it's just an ever flowing type of anchor bucket list, because they don't really change that often, especially again, being in the season of life that I'm currently in. But my business bucket could ebb and flow a little bit more if I am in a busier season. So if I'm in a launch period, or if I'm in more of like a creative period, or, a learning period, like whatever that looks like. So I would put those type of tasks. So like emails, client work, client deliverables, batching content, writing captions, if you're a business owner, all the things that come with being a solopreneur, because AKA we are doing it ourselves. We don't have anybody else helping us out. So it's nice to have all of that there. And then my last bucket, like I said, for me, it's fitness. And so those would be my classes and my playlists. And I love to just say not to have more than 3 or 4, just because, like you said, then it just becomes overwhelming. And what I love so much about the anchor bucket system is that as moms, a lot of times we have a lot occupying and ruminating in our brains constantly. Like I said, we're seeing when the dishes need to be made. We're seeing when the floor needs to be mopped. We're seeing when, I need to go on subscribe and save and make sure I get those vitamins for my daughter, the shampoo's out, right? Like all of these things. And so it can feel as though there's a lot going on, and I've got a lot in like, there's just so much to do. But when I take and I categorize it by anchor buckets, I actually can see that there's not as much as I think. It's just that I've been holding it in and telling myself, I do this a lot. Remember, 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 remember. And I'm that kind of person that I need to get it out.
Yeah.
So it allows me to also like open up space and capacity in my brain, because I know that my brain does not work the same way that it used to. And that's like a whole nother thing we could talk about. But when you become a mom, like your brain changes. And I just know my husband will say to me, he's like, but you're the coordinator of our life. And I'm like, yeah, but sometimes I don't want to be, like I just don't really want that. So I've got like notebooks in the back. I've got a catch-all in the fridge. I've got my Airtable. I've got my notes app. And so where I house my master list, so like that main one is in Airtable. So if I could say anything, if you're the same type of way, you've got notebooks and things on your notes, whatever, you're kind of like, okay, wherever I need, I'm going to, take at like the end of the day, or if you have an opportunity, like my little guy goes down. So I try to, as quickly as he does that, like flush things out and I pop it in there. And so when I'm sitting down to open my computer and I have the time to be productive or work on my business, I can see like already what needs to be completed. So yeah, I have just found that the anchor buckets really just allows me to categorize my thoughts and what really needs to be getting done. And a lot of times it can feel like I said, there's so much to do, but really I'm like, oh, I just really need to make 3 appointments. But it feels like so much because I've been holding on to it for so long, right? So then I get tired, I get short with my kids because I'm like, I'm trying to remember. I'm like, don't forget. And it's just these things that happen that when you're in the moment, you don't recognize it. But when I'm out of the moment, I'm like, that's why. That's what's going on. Yeah.
Yes. No, oh my God. I feel like once I had kids, my short-term memory went. So like I need to write everything down.
Right. I'm like, what was I? And then I have to like retrace my steps. And I'm like, yes, that's it. But
Yes.
yes. It's just, there's so much more happening. And for me, especially, I leaned really heavily into motherhood. So I was doing so much for my daughter and then doing so much like to, work with my husband in our relationship. But like the relationship, like, so their buckets or their, cups were being full, but like, it came back to myself. So that's why I also really suggest that you start with your me bucket first, because it's important for you to pour into yourself first. And it doesn't have to be first thing in the morning. If you're not a morning person, like whatever, but like that one thing that you do like every single day that just is like, yes, and a lot of times I call that my day made task. So like, what's that one thing that would like purely like my heart would just be like, oh, I got that done. And like my day is completely made. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how I am in the morning. I have to do like I have a journal and then I read. And like those 2 things, if I can get them done in the morning, I feel good for the rest of the day.
Right. Because, there's a really great book I read called The High Five Habit, I think is what it's called, by Mel Robbins.
Oh, I know.
I read it in one of the memberships that I was in at the time. And it talks about when you go to the bathroom. I know this is like a really funny like story. And so when you go to the bathroom, like really in the beginning of the day, it's your first time, a lot of times where you're by yourself, right? It's
True.
quiet, there's nothing else going on. And so what she talks about is like getting yourself ready, but you give yourself a high five in the mirror. So you like high five yourself in the mirror. And it's like, because we're so good at high fiving everybody else, especially as moms, like high five, way to go, high five. But like, we're not giving ourselves that pat on the back. And I like really just love that idea of like, you're doing it. Like, and it, at first you're like, but I think, she talks about how it just really starts to rewire like your brain as well, because your emotion doing something positive and giving that like your like body instantly gets that like dose of dopamine. And it's just like, yes, like, and I just would do that, especially when I brought the second kiddo into the house. I was like, you're doing it. And
Yes.
I mean, it really like I was my own hype. So highly
Yeah.
suggest
You
reading
have
that
to
book
be.
if you haven't read it.
Oh, I haven't. I'll put that on my list. Yeah. You have to be your own hype person. Yeah, we do so
Totally. Yeah.
much. Yeah. I don't think we celebrate when we do accomplish something. We're just on to the next thing, on to the next thing, instead of taking that pause and
Yeah.
being like, hey, I finally got that thing off my list that's been on there for 6 months. Yeah.
Right. And that's definitely something I preach too is celebration. Like it's so easy to see the big goal being accomplished. And so I talk about like literally celebrating like one thing a day. And if you want to do that, like start doing that. Like I had my first cup of coffee in the morning, piping hot, like celebrating it, right? Like I didn't lose my ish on my kids, like celebrating it. And, and it's so good because then you can see the progression, especially in business, because it can feel as a solopreneur, like you're kind of like slowly inching your way, I mean, not to say like, I mean, I know some people like get in there and get after it and like, I'm so proud of them, but like sometimes it's not that way. Like for me, like it helps me to keep taking one step in front of the other as well.
Yes, that's such good advice. Thank you. So, when we have kind of a busier season, a lot of people listening to this are starting podcasts and stuff, and with a launch comes a lot of work. Do you have any tips for when you are in the busiest season? Maybe you have to give more to your business, and you feel like a horrible mom because you're not giving as much to your kids. Do you have any advice for that?
Yeah. I mean, so again, I would just look at your situation. This is very situational, obviously, but yes, during a launch season, there's like however long you want to launch.
Yeah.
What I've learned about myself is I do not like a long launch. And so as you're launching though, I know it's so easy to look on social media and see somebody who's been launching for like I don't know, it feels like 10 years. Not really. I'm just being a little bit like out there. And then, they've got this and they've got cart open and that works for them. But notice that when you launch, if it doesn't feel right, if somebody's telling you like, follow this launch plan, if you like, I've gotten it. I've downloaded the plug and plays, like follow my 6-week launch plan. And I have just learned again, like I have to be so protective of my energy and my focus. And so when I get those opportunities, right? So if you are a work from home mom and your kids are home with you, trying your best, the best thing I can say would be, what I love to do at the beginning of the month is to put everything in. So like your anchor buckets, again, going back to anchor buckets, like what season of life are you in? Okay, this, and this. Looking down your to-do list, right? Family. Oh, the kids are out. For me, the kids are out for a week for Mardi Gras. We get a whole week for Mardi Gras down here. So it's like, and spring break. So it's like, so right, if I know that like that's happening, or there's an appointment that's coming up, or I know in business I'm in a launch period, in like your workout classes, like put those in the month. Like, so block those times out, put your launch, like when your launch starts, and then like, what are you doing that week? Okay, I'm writing my emails, like, and like put like email Monday, email Wednesday, email Friday, whatever that looks like for you. And then like when your cart opens, your cart closes, when you're going to be doing, Instagram, if you're going live with people, like just so you can get that like big vision plan. And again, that's everything that's coming out of your brain and like living. Now it's out of your brain, so it's not living rent free. And then from there is where I would look at what comes next. And so your business bucket would be probably more of like an 80-20. So, really also owning your time. I know I have been in groups of moms who are like, my hours aren't the same as everybody else's, right? We talk about that consistent-ish schedule. Mm-hmm. Can you be okay with working after your kids go to sleep for an hour? Like, does that feel like you can do that? Could you wake up earlier than everybody else and plug in an hour's worth of work? Because that once your kids wake up, like you're momming until it's nap time, and then, you need to take a rest, right? So really just like checking in to see like what season of life you're in, and then plugging in, like I said, the dates already that you have, and then like finding the pockets within your day to then be able to start to what I call batch your tasks. So instead of being like, I'm going to do an email and then I'm going to go on Canva and then I'm going to go put a podcast out, like your brain, it's using too much energy. Like you're using way too much energy. So I love to even look into my anchor buckets and batch my tasks. So like that would look like finding same like tasks that are the same like type thing. So if it's writing, like you would say maybe it's an email and you write one caption, like, and then you're done. Right. So like having a writing day, if it's, creating TikToks, if it's creating reels. So where you're having, for me, that's a higher energy task, right? Coming back to energy, I'm going to put those together. So, and then from there, like you just start to group them, and then you're able to, when you find those pockets in your day, to be like, all right, I work well with time limits. And so that way I also don't overthink it. If I give myself the whole 2 hours of the nap time, it's going to take me 2 hours to write that email. Mm-hmm. But if I'm like, I know that I need to honor the duality of being a mom and a business owner, and I need that rest, or I need to be able to just watch Outer Banks because it's mindless in the background.
Yes.
I love Outer Banks. And I know I also need to get this done in order for like next week, or however you also like, because I know some people are like cycle sync and whatever, like mm-hmm. wherever that works in your, like I said, your monthly calendar, then give yourself, I'm going to give myself 20 minutes. I'm going to go in. For me, I write emails now in less than 5 minutes. I give myself 5 minutes. And I literally I'm like, before I type, I'm like, what do I want to talk about? And I'm like, okay, unless I have something that I like noodled and I put down. But most of the time it's like, okay, what do I want to talk about? I know I'm going to be launching this, and I just go, and then so it again allows your brain to focus laser in on writing that email, start to finish, complete, scheduled, boom. Yeah. Okay. Now I've got the remainder 10 minutes. I'm going to write this one caption. Or if you are someone who can like fly through captions, like that's so good for you. I am not that person. So I'm going to do one at a time, right? So small to keep it sustainable, because if you are trying to do it all, like I said, email, Canva, this, you're going to burn out. By the end of the launch, you're going to be like, I never want to do that again, like tired, like you're not going to want to do it again. And so really, it just kind of goes into the time available that you have. Again, if you know that it's going to be a busier season, can you ask for help? Can somebody come? Like, can you ask your partner? Can you ask a family member? Can you see if you can get a sitter for an hour? Something like that too. That's how I have been able to teach my classes and to go to workout classes 3 times a week, is because I have that time in the morning, but something I also know that I need. So I ask for help, right? And then from there, just again, chipping away and recognizing your energy and where you want to shift, because the more you can get out and the more you can, I guess, quote unquote, plan ahead, like the better prepared you're also going to be. So when it comes to opening up your computer, you're not sitting there like,
what do I do?
Well, and I have been there. And then it also just allows you with batching. It's more than batching content. Like it allows you, like, if you do need that like full 2 hours, take the 2 hours, like it's much more of what you need versus what your business needs too. Right. I mean, if you're a solopreneur, then, and you're the one who has to continue the launch happening, like you're going to have to really make sure you're pouring into yourself. So yeah, I would just, like I said, time availability, looking at your anchor bucket for your business, planning that out, and then like chipping away and creating it like from this bigger launch idea. Like it's like slowly, like I guess funneling it down or thinking about it as an umbrella. One big idea, the droplets coming down to that big launch day, because and then making sure, something I have learned too is to end my launch like with cycle syncing a little bit. I'm no cycle thinker, like, pro here, but it has been something that I have learned about and like been listening to, because then you're like ending on a high versus like a type thing.
Yes. To connecting it with your energy. I do some cycle syncing too. Like when I'm on my period, I block it off. I don't take calls because I really don't want to talk to people that week.
It's interesting. Mine is not like, I actually feel okay. It's like the 2 or 3 days before it that I'm like, why am I so tired? Why is my brain so foggy right now? And I'm like, and I just listen. I mean, I literally listen. And like you said, people might be like, oh, you're just taking rest today. But yeah, I am. And that's what productivity looks like to me, because what I believe productivity at its core is like worthiness and feeling like enough. Like, am I worthy to take this time to myself? Is it enough at the end of the day that I took rest and I did one thing, and being okay with that,
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Just knowing yourself and your energy. Like I'm a morning person. So like my high energy tasks are always in the morning. Don't ask me to do editing after lunch because I will fall asleep.
That's what I said. I was like, our interview's at 1. I'm like, okay, that gives me 2 o'clock. I can lay down. And that's also just knowing, again, like I love to think about it like as your like energy management and then your relationship with time. Seeing the time that you do have, and not always, again, not feeling like you need to be busy, but like, are you using the opportunities to the best of their ability, or like to the best of whatever that 30 minutes is, because what I see and what I've heard, and not even my experience, is like, I believe that CEO days are like BS.
Can't do a whole day.
Well, but for moms, I'm like, why do I need a whole day? How can I create these? And maybe that's one of your buckets as CEO, so like you plan pockets of time. That's the first thing that you do, like for your business. But I don't want to get too attached to a CEO day and then a kid be sick and then me be like, oh. So it's really just me being able to honor, and to detach from that kind of like expectation of having this. And what I love about anchor buckets in batching is that it does allow you to, again, like if you've got your week planned out, which is the way I do it, I'm able to also flow with my energy. So if I'm like, okay, I know I want to batch this, and this week, but I'm like, ooh, Monday, I'm like, I've got like that, like hankering to want to like, I don't know, pop out 50 TikToks, let's say, that doesn't happen. Then but I'm going to capitalize on it. And it doesn't mean like, and so then you just shift things around And here's the little bit like of tidbit, like give yourself permission to, if you don't do what you thought you wanted to do or you thought that you should do that day, it doesn't mean it's done. It doesn't mean like, oh, my launch is like to crap. It just really means like just move to the next day, because again, like you have to pour into yourself and where your energy is flowing and where that direction is going. Because I love that adage, like where your energy flows, your focus goes. Like where your focus goes is where your energy flows. And so if you're focusing on not getting something done, then it's just going to hold you back from getting that next thing checked off your list.
Exactly. That was such great advice. Thank you so much for being on today. Like,
yeah,
I could talk about productivity all day long, but anyway.
Yes.
Can you just let the listeners know like where they can find you and connect more with you?
Yes. So I am on Instagram at Cindy.Beerworth. I think that's my Facebook too, so it's connected. And then I'm on TikTok at BizMomsW. So like with Cindy. I have been showing up a lot more over there. So if you want to come join the fun, I'm over there. I'm actually in the middle of a 30-day saying yes to you challenge. And so, yeah, you'll kind of see what I'm talking about, like saying yes to yourself and, pouring into my bucket. And then I have a website, fix it a little bit and update it, but it's cindybeerworth.com. And then you can always hit me in my DMs. You can always email me. I am around. It is me on the other side. It is a one-woman ship over here.
Thank you again so much. This is such a helpful episode. I know the listeners are going to get so much from this.
Good. Yeah. And if you have any questions, like if you hear anything or anybody listening, feel free to let me know. I could talk about launching. I just feel like, like you were talking about, I'm like, I could keep going. People will be like, okay. Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me. Thank you all for listening. I can't believe I'm in your ears. It's so cool.
Awesome. Thank you again.